Following the severe debt crisis of 2022, Sri Lanka's macroeconomic picture is stabilizing. The country has recovered to post a steady 5% annual economic growth rate over the last 2 years, but that growth carries a heavy, invisible tax. The national economy still relies heavily on physical cash transactions and fragmented analog workflows. That reliance on legacy, paper-based systems costs Sri Lanka an estimated 1.5% of its GDP every single year. You can see the friction clearly in high-value trade centers. At the massive port of Colombo, yard operations run on a software system called Navis, while customs uses entirely separate platforms like ACUTA. Because these systems cannot talk to each other, exporters have to submit overlapping digital entries and then wait for stamped physical paperwork to get cargo released. These aren't just isolated glitches. They are the logical result of an economy running on disconnected analog rules. Solving it means moving beyond separate software patches and building a single, shared foundation for the entire country. This chart shows the scale of the state's proposed rewrite, known as the DigiEcon 2030 Blueprint. The plan aims to quintuple the country's digital economy from a historical baseline of $3.7 billion to a $15 billion powerhouse, while simultaneously tripling tech exports to over $5 billion. To reach those numbers, the government is adopting a government-as-a-platform strategy. Instead of building isolated applications for individual public agencies, the state is constructing a single, unified digital public infrastructure, or DPI. Under this architecture, the state is responsible for building only the bottom 20% of the stack, foundational tools like identity verification and secure data exchange. Local developers, startups, and private enterprises are then free to access open APIs and build the remaining 80% of downstream consumer-facing value on top. The government steps away from trying to design custom software for every problem and instead becomes an open-source enabler for private sector growth. For a platform state to function at scale, it requires two non-negotiable base layers: a secure way to verify who is transacting and an instant way to move their capital. The identity layer is anchored by the Sri Lanka Unique Digital Identity Project, or SLUDI. Built on an open-source global framework called MOSIP, the system assigns a unique biometric-backed digital identity to citizens, allowing for secure, remote verification without physical documents. That identity layer plugs directly into the financial layer through GovPay. Managed alongside the central bank, GovPay operates as an open-loop, zero-cost central gateway where citizens can pay for public services directly from their existing bank accounts or mobile wallets. The adoption metrics reflect the demand for this integration. By late 2025, GovPay had crossed 1 billion rupees in transactions, onboarding more than 200 state agencies and making over 3,000 distinct public services payable instantly online. Linking a universally verifiable identity directly to instant payments removes the bureaucratic intermediaries. It removes the dead time that used to stall the economy. With the base layer established, the state can begin activating massive, traditionally analog vertical industries. In agriculture, the rollout of the CropX digital platform replaces fragmented, paper-based farm registries. It integrates national cultivation data with real-time field reporting and yield forecasting into one centralized dashboard. Using secure APIs, CropX takes data out of institutional silos and delivers it to mobile portals, allowing rural farmers to align their planting cycles directly with market demand. In the logistics sector, a similar integration is underway. The push for a unified port-to-community system aims to finally bridge the gap between legacy software like ACUTA and Navis N4, allowing customs and terminal operators to clear cargo digitally without physical stamps. Private entities are leveraging the same infrastructure. MasterCard's Access Unlocked V2.0 program is currently distributing low-cost digital point-of-sale systems like SoftPOS and Soundbox to rural, small, and medium-sized enterprises. API-driven vertical integrations are taking sectors that were previously choked by physical paperwork and turning them into real-time, data-driven engines of commerce. But centralizing a national economy creates a stark architectural risk. A massive, deeply integrated digital ecosystem inevitably results in a massive, singular attack surface. The reality of this threat materialized in March 2025 during the Cargill's bank data breach. Hackers exfiltrated 1.9 terabytes of data, compromising highly sensitive personal identifiable information, including ID scans and video verification records, for over 4,200 customers and staff. The attack, attributed to a ransomware group known as Hunters International, succeeded despite multiple prior internal network audits that had explicitly warned management about unpatched systems and asset tracking vulnerabilities. Rapid technological adoption, if completely detached from equally aggressive cybersecurity enforcement, turns a highly efficient national asset into a catastrophic public liability. An API-driven economy runs entirely on public and investor trust. When legislative blind spots leave sensitive data exposed, that trust evaporates. This tension is currently playing out around Sri Lanka's draft cybersecurity bill. Tech experts and industry leaders have raised alarms over opaque provisions that explicitly mandate coordination with the Ministry of Defense and potentially place military officials on civilian regulatory boards. It represents a critical friction point, the absolute necessity of civilian data protection oversight clashing directly against the risk of establishing a state-sanctioned, militarized surveillance architecture. The global stakes of getting this governance right are clear. The World Bank has injected $50 million into the country's digital transformation project, specifically to build the secure data exchange and cloud platforms required to make this ecosystem safely scale. If Sri Lanka successfully balances technical integration with democratic safeguards, it creates a template for the global stage. It would serve as a blueprint for developing nations to digitize their economies without sacrificing the data rights of their citizens.